frequency.
And it also will be dependent on the type of contract that you have,
Sure.
you know, and what you're delivering, so. All right. Cost accounting information. DFARS require cost accounting information as required. Contract clauses concerning limitations of costs, limitations of funds, or allowable costs of payment. And we need to make sure that you can readily calculate the indirect cost rates from your books and records. So, and interim rates should be routinely monitored, so you should be monitoring those indirect rates that you have to make sure that you know the costs on the government contracts are not gonna be in that overrun position. Or you know, you're not, to make sure that you're billing enough to, you know, recoup your costs. And at least monthly, an employee needs to be responsible for monitoring the total contract expenditures against the contract limitations, price or cost. So again, we kind of talked about before, about the ACO providing the, how the provision regarding, with fee withholding, at that 85%, but also there's a requirement that, you know, notification to the ACO that you're at that 75% or 85% of your contract value. So this is why, you know, just more reason those adequate contract briefs are so important. So you know where those limitations are and you know those specific clauses. DFARS requires adequate, reliable data for use on follow-on acquisitions. So you need to make sure that your records are kept up, that if you have a follow-on to the next effort, that you can look to see, you know, what were the costs to produce those widgets, you know, on our last contract, you know. That data has to be reliable because the government relies on that data for the follow-on contracts. And accounting practices are in accordance with CAS, if applicable, otherwise, you know, the generally accepted accounting principles. So, you know, the standard by which all businesses operate. So, DFARS 252.2, I'm just gonna say DFARS. DFARS requires management review or internal audits of systems to ensure compliance with contractors' established policies, procedures, and accounting practices. So there's a lot of words there. So what does that mean? Like, how are you doing that in your business on a day-to-day basis? What would be some examples? Because you may not have an actual internal audit department. Obviously, small businesses don't have those internal audit departments. But what are some practices that you do that would be that oversight, that internal review, that would kind of fulfill that need of, you know, that oversight to ensure that the business is properly running, ethically operating, and so forth, and you know, complying with those established policies and procedures?
Multiple signatures on payment.
Yep.
Reviewing timekeeping systems, like I do a system that the workers put in their time and then I bounce it against our timekeeping system.
Yep.
Checks and balances that way.
Yep. Good examples. You know, and other ones are like review of the invoices, you know, by that higher level management. So my dad ran a small business, small landscape business. There wasn't one bill that came through the door that he didn't look at and know exactly what he was spending, you know, that the business was spending. So, and it's just that management review. So it's a simple, there's a lot of words there, but it's those simple practices of, you know, looking at those invoices and looking at those timekeeping and those multiple signatures that, you know, are items that meet that requirement. So, you know, when we come out and do this pre-award accounting system, we're gonna ask you, you know, what types of things do you do? So, and I think I think more so in small business, that we see a lot more of that management review than, you know, you have it in larger businesses, but it has, you know, the policies, the procedures, but the hands-on in small business, it's obviously there. So, just a few other points is a contractor needs to be up to date on its submissions of adequate incur cost proposals in accordance with the terms of the contract if applicable. So if you have a cost reimbursable contract, you know, you're required to submit your annual incurred cost within 6 months at the end of your fiscal year. And we'll be providing an additional presentation on incurred cost submissions. And the purpose of this submission is to provide your actual incurred rates on commercial and government contracts, including any adjustments for unallowable costs. So DCAA will perform a review of your incurred cost submission. This says within 24 months. So,
Sorry.
oh, we're getting there. I was actually gonna say, we do it, you know, a lot shorter than that. I'm sure most of you are aware that we now have like a risk-based approach that we are
That's
an
awesome.
initiative. And to brag on the Dayton office, we're fairly current, so.
That's good. Are you teaching the other DCAA folks to do the
I said I was
same?
bragging on the Dayton office.
Okay.
But, I mean, it's a significant item that gets daily attention within our agency, and, you know, we're sending resources to, you know, all across the country and helping each other with the workload
That's cool.
to meet that objective, So, and then a contractor needs to submit final vouchers within 120 days after the settlement of the applicable final indirect rates for all years required by FAR 52-216-7D5. So, once all those final rates have been established, then, and that contract's come to an end, you have to submit that final voucher. So, some common deficiencies that, you know, we have found going out and doing the pre-awards, and some of these probably stem from post-awards too, is that contractors aren't making that monthly determination of cost charged through the routine posting to the books of account. So, you know, it's kind of one of those things, it's like, well, I'll get to it later, and all of a sudden, you know, you have 3 or 4 months worth of book work, you know, that you're behind in. Failure to properly segregate direct and indirect cost. So, again, you know, read back through those questions. Does this benefit just the contract? Does this benefit, you know, multiple contracts? Is this needed for the overall business? So, you know, that segregation of cost, proper classification of cost, improper timekeeping. So, like not keeping a timesheet or only completing a timesheet once a month. Those are common things that we find. Failure to exclude unallowable costs. Again, FAR Part 31205 has selected costs, so it goes through those costs we determine, you know, FAR sets forth as being unallowable. Inadequate procedures to ensure that subcontractors and vendors are only included in billings if payment to subcontractors will be made in accordance with the terms of the subcontract and ordinarily within 30 days of the contractor's payment request to the government. So, you know, the government just wants to ensure that, you know, that next level down is getting that payment in a timely manner. So, you know, we do look for that. So, any questions?
Do you have to wait for a pre-award audit in order, like, say, you know, we work at a small business and we're trying to get compliant. Is there a way for someone to come and look at us prior to that time, or do we just have to hope that we're doing things the right way and get audited one at a time? Because we don't have any, for instance, right now, we don't have any prime government contracts that we're working on.
It'll be triggered by that contracting officer making that request.
Okay. So until that time, just keep reading and can we call and ask you guys questions even before?
You can call and ask, like, general questions.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
I can't tell you what where, because normally how I will answer a question is I will say, you know, if you go and look at FAR
Okay.
such and such.
yeah.
You know,
Okay.
but can we give you, can we provide you some of that, where to go to look for that guidance for you to make those decisions? Absolutely.
Okay.
And there is a small business liaison too, which at the end of the presentation I'll show you.
Okay.
But, yeah, absolutely, we can answer those general type questions.
Yeah, because we know it's coming, we just don't know when. So we're trying to.
You mentioned you're a subcontractor. Has the prime contractor, what type of contracts do you have currently? Are they fixed price, cost type, T&M?
Well, most of them are either fixed price or T&M or labor hour, because we don't have an approved accounting system.
Okay, because the prime contractor does have a responsibility to ensure you have an adequate accounting system as well. So if you were to get a cost type subcontract, there is an opportunity that the prime contractor may coordinate with you to talk about your accounting system.
Right.
Or if you're unwilling to have them look at your proprietary data, work through the
You'll do an
ACO
assist
community.
audit. Yeah, yeah.
Well, and I think even for the T&M and the labor hour contracts, they could request that.
They might on the T&M,
Yeah.
the fixed price, it depends if they're billing on progress billings or whether they're doing just a flat monthly rate or if they're doing milestone,
She said labor hour.
labor
Yeah.
hour.
So that one.
Yeah, that's pretty much what they give us, because they know they don't wanna go through all that, and they know that we don't have an approved accounting system, so. But it's gonna come eventually, cause I know it is, so.
But yeah, they can coordinate that through their DCMA office,
Right.
is usually and then their DCMA office may request it, directly to our office and so forth.
Okay.
Any other questions? Oh no, are we allowed to have a break?
Sure. Break.
Now, if